Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is not your typical Tuesday and we have another picture by Molly Harrison because it is Molly May 2022. And what we're going to do with this picture is going to be the picture for the week. But as you can see, there's a lot of white things that are supposed to be little glowy areas. So we're going to actually prepare this picture and do some of the background so that the white shows through as white glowy areas. So I'm going to switch you over to the close-up camera. Now the only thing that you need for this is a Caran d'Ache blender. The reason why I use a Caran d'Ache blender is because the wax in this blender will create that bond and repel any sort of color from going on the page. So what you do is you outline all of your white areas with the Caran d'Ache blender. And of course with the blender you can get that to a pretty good sharp point so that you can get into all those areas. Make sure that you get a good layer of this wax on there. And just follow all of the lines. Now I'm going to do a small area here, but I'll show you all the other areas that I'm going to do this in, preparing this to be completed. So there's a lot of white areas in this picture. And of course you don't need to do them all, like you don't need to do all the little white dots because you can add those in later. But there's little tiny nuance things such as these butterflies that are white, as well as these little flowers that are white. So we're going to color those in as well. And you can do this afterwards, but I find that with backgrounds like this, a lot of these little things are lost because of color going over top of them. There's also these little tiny stars here. So I'm just going to go over top of those as well. And they're very, very tiny little things. So the smaller little stars I'm going around all of, but there's also some bigger ones here, so I'm just going to follow the star line. Like that. There's one here. And try to keep your blender tip fairly sharp so that you can get into these really small details. Same with this area here. We want some color to get in there, but not, we want that white area around the edges. These areas here. All right. So we're going to do the same thing up here. We're going to color in this leaf. Follow these veins, these vines, because we want these to stay white. Do the butterfly. And I'll show you after I'm done with all of the white areas, how I intend on doing the background. Now we will be adding colored pencil to the background, but we're going to start with a background color. So I'm going to use a green for the background color on top of all of the little bits in that. All of the other things, like the different areas of leaves and that sort of thing, will be colored in with a color. But these little flowers and stars, that sort of thing, we want them to stay white. So we're going over them with the Caran d'Ache. And what should happen is the Caran d'Ache blender itself should, the wax from this should protect that area from color. Let's see, do I have any other? There's another one there. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to grab a green, and we're going to use the water drop or dewdrop inks for this. So I'm just going to grab a thumb thingy. There we go. I think I need to buy some more of these thumb thingies. All right, so we've got a clean thumb. We've got a clean dauber here. And we're going to start up here in the corner just to make sure this is going to work the way I want it to. So I'm just filling that dauber with some ink. Get it nice and green. And we're just going to very gently put that green through. And as you can see, where it goes over the white, you just wipe it off and it stays white. So it's not turning any of that white area green. And when we go over it with the colored pencil, it will also not color it green. So I missed one. I missed one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to remove that green before it dries. Like so. And then I'm going to dust that off with my brush. And we're going to come through with the blender and fill that in. Make sure that I hadn't missed any more. I'm just going to go down that area there as well, just to make sure. So in theory, what should happen is I should be able to cover this entire background with the green tones, with the green ink, and not have any stick to the white areas. If you do get some on it, you can wipe it off because of the wax that's on it. Now we can also do this with, we don't have to do this just with ink. That area there I'm going to do with ink, and then I'm going to take my pen pastels and do another area just so that you can see that you don't have to do it with ink. You can do it with a pastel as well as with pencil. So I'm going to put the pastels up here. Now I have a bigger variety of color in the pastel, so I will be able to do a little bit more color-wise with the pastels. So I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to take a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and we're going to do this area down here. So as you can see, that white stands out, where if I didn't put that down, it would be overtaken by the green. Now, of course, if you find that some of your pastel has stuck, like for example this one here, I didn't do the wax to, so I can do this and move that off. But what you can do is you can take your eraser and you can pick that up. So because I've done that one, I can take my small eraser here. Let's see, where is it? No, I don't need the pen, I need the eraser. Where is my little tiny eraser? Let's see, I'll just use this pencil eraser. It'll work. So, because I've gone over this with the pastel, and because I've gone over it with the wax, I don't have to press hard. I just have to pick up that pastel off of the wax. Where if I hadn't put down the wax, I'd have to press harder to pick that up and remove it. But because I put down the wax, the eraser just picks it all up. Without any pressure, without any effort. And just picks it all up. Like so. Now if I was using colored pencil, which I will show you here in a minute, because there's some areas that have colored pencil underneath. So after I finish this wax part, just lifting that green up off of the white. Like so. And then we'll do the same thing down there. And this one here, oh yeah, I did. I was going to say I didn't put enough of the wax down, but I did. So that's one of the things that we're going to be working on with this picture, is maintaining the glowing areas created by the artist with going over things with the pastel as well as the inks. Now this butterfly here, I'm not going to worry about going over it because I'm going to be doing that with colored pencil. So I'm just going to put a little bit more green, getting a darker area up here. like I said, I'm not worried about going over top of those areas because I have that white down. So when I go over it with my brush, I can knock most of that loose, and then I can go over it with the eraser very gently, just picking up that pigment. Now this area here, because I haven't gone over it with white, I'm not too concerned about whether or not the pigment's there, because I will be coloring that with the colored pencils. But all these areas that I had gone over with the white, the eraser is just going to very gently lift off that pastel, leaving that white behind. Like that. Same with over here. Just lifting up that pastel. And as you can see, it's not pushing it back into the paper. It's just lifting it off. Those areas that I've got the white crayon on, the blender. Now, of course, you can go over this to make it more white with your white pencil. But it's not necessary. So this one here, I'm just barely touching it, lifting it off of the white areas that I did, leaving that green in the background behind the butterfly. Not lifting that off, just lifting what is on the white area. And you can do this without putting down the Caran d'Ache blender by using a white Prismacolor. Will give you a good wax base as well. But if you don't have either of those, you can use a wax, a white wax pencil. You may find that the color gets pushed into that wax a little bit. So you may find that you have to do a little bit more erasing than you would if you used a Caran d'Ache blender or a Prisma white pencil. I've only ever done this with Caran d'Ache and Prisma, so I can't guarantee how well it will work with anything else. But I've done this with the Prismacolor as well, and I find that the Caran d'Ache works a little bit better than the Prismacolor because it just gently over top of it with the eraser and it just picks it all up because it's literally just sitting right on top of the wax. Just make sure that when you go over your area to wipe your eraser every once in a while so that you're not redistributing or pushing that color into your areas. Let's see, did I have any? No, okay. And we'll do the same thing again down here. If you don't push hard on it, you won't erase the wax area. You'll just pick up that color. Just have to make sure you don't press too hard. You're not trying to completely scrub out something, you're just lifting up. like so. Now I'm not worried about going over any of the dark areas because we're going to be adding colored pencil to that. So I need a little bit more of the yellow green for this. Trying not to get too much into her space here because I don't want her skin to be green. And I want a little bit more dark. So any of those areas that you feel need your pigment, go through and put it in. Then go back through, erase or lift off the extra pigment off of your white areas. And then color your dark vines and everything else afterwards. So put down this first and then color your darker vines from behind. Okay, so once again, I want to lift that off of my white areas. Because I want them to shine through. Now you don't have to have them white and shine through. You can definitely do them in whatever colors. You can go over them with your background colors and have the background colors make them shine through. Like for example, if I would have just gone over these with a light tone, they would show as the lightest tone because on the page itself they're white, where everything else has a gray. But I like them to glow kinda. I want them to be glowy. And I want the green to be behind them. If that makes sense. Same with over here. Picking up all that green off of the white areas. Not pressing hard, just picking up the pastel. Looks like I may have missed a leaf. This one's taking a little bit more erasing, so I'll need to go over that with my Caran d'Ache. So I have to press a little bit harder on this leaf because I didn't go over it. Where on this part here, I did. And I don't have to press as hard. So you can definitely feel the wax underneath the eraser compared to the paper. So the areas that I didn't miss are very smooth, almost like there's a barrier there, which there is, of course. But they're very smooth, so when you go over them with the eraser, it just glides. And you don't get a lot of that eraser dust. When you've missed an area, you can feel the drag on the eraser, and you find that you have a lot more eraser dust. And of course, you can definitely go over everything and then take your eraser and erase those areas. That, of course, is another way of doing this. But you may find that the green area or the pigment from whatever you're using is harder to lift off if that wax barrier isn't there. And you may, depending upon how depending upon the paper you're using and depending upon what medium you're using for that background area, will depend upon how much erasing you have to do and whether or not you want to actually erase instead of doing it this way where you're just lifting off. Because you can end up erasing the detail as well as the medium that you're using to create that background. Where what I'm doing here is I'm just lifting it off of that area, and I can definitely feel a grab of the eraser in areas that I missed. Because seeing where you've put it sometimes can be a little bit difficult too. But like I said, as long as you put in some of it there, you will be able to just lift it off. Quite easily. Like so. But the reason why you dust off your brush or your eraser is because it picks up that pigment and it holds it on the end of the eraser, which can redistribute it if you're not careful. Alright, so we're going to keep on going here. I'm just going to grab some of the light. Let's use a little bit this one. Again, not getting too close to her here because I don't want to color her hair or her gown or anything like that in this green. Not worried about getting it on those flowers or on the other butterfly because I will be going over that with the colored pencils. So all of these darker areas, all these darker details are going to be gone over with colored pencil, where all the white ones, we're not going to be going over them with colored pencil. Because we've already gone over them. Now, if you're going to use a really light color on those details, definitely take an eraser to them and lift off some of that pastel. So because I'm going to be coloring this in a light tone, I don't want its undertone to be green, so I'm going to lift off some of that color. I'm not worried about how much of it I lift off as long as I lift off most of it. Dust off your entire page, getting all of the excess pigment off of it. And go through and just lift off of the white. Like so. So this is the picture that we are going to work with tomorrow during our Wednesday live color and chat. So if you want to continue this page with me, you can definitely do so tomorrow. I will be finishing off the background a little bit here today. So I will be going through and just making sure that everything is erased the way I want it to be erased. Lifting off all of those bits of green from anywhere that I don't want it to be. Making sure that the green is darker in areas that we want it to be dark. And then what we will be doing is I will be taking a fixative. I will spray it with a workable fixative because we are still going to work this page with colored pencils. And as you can see, I'm going over this entire area, but I'm not scrubbing, so it's not erasing that pigment underneath in the open areas. So in those open areas, I can easily leave the green without any problems of it being a see-through butterfly. Or I can go through with a lighter color and I can color that. I like the green, so I will probably leave it as green. Just going through, making sure that I have all of the white showing as white. And like I said, you can definitely feel on the areas when you have that barrier, because the eraser just glides over top of it and you don't end up with a lot of eraser dust, just more of the pigment movement. Alright, got an area here. And areas down here. got some areas up here, right here. I missed that one. And what we'll do once we are done with all of the different colors and putting the color parts in, we will go through and we can either amplify the white by using a white pencil, or we can use a gel pen and amplify that white even more. And that's when we will put in our little dots and stuff like that as well. So as you can tell, I'm just barely touching the page, just lifting off that green. That one needs a little bit more attention. That one had a little bit of a issue. And the eraser pencils work well for this because you can get them into that smaller area, or one of the the micro erasers as well. You can use an electric eraser for this, but you will probably end up lifting off more than just the areas that have the wax on them. So be careful with that. Alright, so I'm just going to put in just a little bit more green here up in this area. And there's an area here, there it is, that I need to erase. Put in a little bit more green down here. Alright. Lift it off there. And as you can see here, there's little white areas of this plant here as well that we need to lift that off of. Barely touching it, just lifting off where I've got the white. Same with over here. Lifting off of the white areas. Like so. Okay, I'm going to switch you over to the main camera. So there we have our background, fairly completed. Again, like I said, I will go through and touch up any areas, completely erase any areas of white that I want to be erased. And then I'll go through and put a fixative on it just to keep that pastel in place so that on Wednesday we can color it and make it pretty. there we have it. Of course, another thing that we can do to enhance the whiter areas is we can definitely go through afterwards and add a white gel pen. Doing it this way does give you the ability to guarantee that those are going to stay fairly white during the coloring process, and you will be able to see them a lot easier after doing a full background over top of them. And that way, when you do go through and decide to put the white in, you can definitely find where all that white is. It doesn't make it as stark white as, say, if you were to use your gel pen, but it does give you a really good base to work from, and it keeps those details from being hidden with the background. Like so. Like, for example, this one here. It has a lot of glowing area throughout the butterfly, and I did go over and completely cover that with the blender, so that when I did go over it, it would still show that glow. Again, I'm just going over the entire thing really gently with the eraser, just to lift off that color off of the butterfly's wings. And basically all we've done is we've gone over it with the Caran d'Ache and knocked down that tooth a little bit so that the color would not stick to those areas, so that it would just remain white after going over it with a bit of an eraser. Alright, so there we have it. There is our prepared page for tomorrow. I will continue to make sure that all of the areas that I want to be white are erased from any, or lifted from any of the pigment that we have down there. And then tomorrow I will spray this today, I will let it dry, and tomorrow we will work on it with the colored pencils. I think I like the pastel, the pan pastel instead of the ink, a little bit better. I know that the water drop ink I have, it doesn't erase very nicely. So I would have to be a little bit more careful with it when it comes to going over top of areas that I want to color. Where with the pastel it just lifts right off. And you can go on your merry way. Alright. And there we have the start of our fairy picture for tomorrow. Alright guys, hopefully this was helpful in understanding and knowing how to make these white objects pop a little bit better when you're doing a large background like this. Of course, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to any YouTube artist that you enjoy. Always remember to relax, color, and stay safe. Until next time, bye-bye for now.